Alright, first off, let's begin with the setup for the scenario. Second Bull Run. Just off the map here, we have Stuart's Cav, who will come on turn 2, leading on Longstreet's Corps, comes on turn 3. And finally, Anderson's division of Longstreet's Corps comes on the first night. On the map, we have Jackson's 2nd Corps, along with one cavalry block. And here's Jackson. Now Jackson has 9 blocks, and that looks like a large force. But 3 are detachments. One is his artillery, 1 are his bags, and 1 is this block of Stuart's cavalry. So he actually only has 3 infantry blocks. This line along here is the abandoned rail line. To begin the game, he must start west of that line and south of the Bull Run. Now typically, you'll place the cavalry up here. The purpose of the cavalry up here is to keep the Union from running somebody around and outflanking Jackson's position. Now the Bull Run can be crossed here at Sudley Springs, and there's one more crossing back here. I'm going to start by setting AP Hill's block right here in cover behind the abandoned rail line, and Ewell's troops in cover. Now here's Groveton. I'm going to place DH Hill's block here west of Groveton. He's going to be placed with the artillery. Should the Union attempt to come around the flank on this side, he's got the area covered with his artillery. His bags will be back here, and then we've got the 3 detachments. What I'm actually going to do is place the detachment in front of these blocks, like skirmishers. What this allows me to do is when the Union attacks, these will be destroyed, or you could say the skirmishers fell back in line with the rest of the corps. But they've got a chance of getting hit on the attackers, which could reduce them to spent before they run into the fresh, full blocks. The last detachment I'll place here. Now, over half the block is south of the Bull Run, so it's considered on this side of the Bull Run, guaranteeing that this position will not get flanked. That's it for our southern friends. Now to look at Pope's forces. Pope begins with 2 corps. Sigel's Army of Virginia 1st Corps and McDowell's Army of Virginia 3rd Corps. We'll start with Sigel's troops. Sigel has 3 infantry blocks. Now, they're labeled with, all Pubbell's troops are labeled with names on the blocks. So we have Skirts, Schenck, and Steinwehr. Now, we chose to do this because it adds color to the game. But ultimately, it's a corps level game, and the corps is 3 blocks strong. And I'll get back to this naming on the blocks a couple times. And here he has his artillery, his bags, and a detachment. Again, for color, it's just you just label it detachment, but it can be thought of also as Milroy's brigade, if you want to add that color. Now Pope has to set up south of Bull Run, east of this road that runs through Groveton, all the way up to the Bull Run. And they must be 1/3 away from any Confederate blocks. We're going to put 2 blocks here. Now the blocks extend across the Bull Run, but the majority of the block is south of the Bull Run, and that's considered where the unit is. I'm going to try and turn this flank. I'll put Steinwehr's division here, a detachment there, the artillery up on Buck Hill, and here are the bags. Sigel will place there. When placing the bags, I want to make sure that the bags are not on any roads, because when reinforcements come racing up the Warrenton Turnpike, I don't want to have them run into traffic on the bags and get held up. Every turn is going to count. Every delay is going to hurt. And here we have McDowell's Corps. 2 blocks labeled Reynolds and King. Now historically, King had a stroke, wandered off, and no one knew where he was for a while, and ultimately he was replaced. But we'll give him his due, and his block gets that label. Now I can place them as far forward as this road that goes through Groveton. But this side is largely defensive, and you're anticipating Longstreet's Corps coming on. Now historically, Pope was under the impression, and he would not let go of it, that the South was retreating. Whenever they'd report Longstreet's troops being seen, he'd go, "Oh, they're in retreat," even though many on his staff were trying to convince him otherwise. We are not going to hamstring the Union player by making him operate under such false ideas. But when you're playing, if you want to say, okay, I want to do this as if Pope was in charge and he thinks they're retreating, knock yourself out, go for it. Here's his artillery. I'm going to set it up on Chin's Ridge. We'll back it up with Reynolds' division. And we'll place King down here on the Union left. So even though Pope's force on the map outnumbers Jackson's corps, he can really only attack with the 3 blocks of Sigel's corps. 3 blocks on the 3 blocks that Jackson has. Now on turn 1, Heintzelman's Army of Potomac 3rd Corps will come racing down the Warrenton Turnpike. That's 2 more divisions they can add to the attack. On turn 2, like I said, Stuart will come on. At the same time, Fitz-John Porter will come on from the south with his corps. Turn 3, Longstreet comes on, and Reno comes on way to the east of Manassas Junction, and he'll get here a couple turns later. Now the last thing I want to talk about is the Union cavalry. The Union cavalry was present, but it was also ineffective. Buford was running around picking up intelligence, sending it to Pope, but Pope was not listening to it. You also have Bayard and Beardsley. Independent cavalry was oftentimes used as traffic cops, moving troops around, doing some scouting, but again there was no overall direction to it, and they certainly weren't taking any offensive action. The way we cover this is we give them a chit to activate, but they don't have an HQ. There's no central command for this cavalry. So they can move, but they can't attack any of Lee's troops. They can get in the way, they can spot, they can guard the bags. Essentially, they can act as they were able to historically. And also, of course, the Union cavalry is regular cavalry. Stuart's cavalry, he has 2 blocks, are elite. And actually, neither side wants to risk combat with the other in their cavalry, because what you definitely don't want is to have your cavalry eliminated and then having the enemy's cavalry run around completely unopposed. So I'm going to have Beardsley and Buford down here together, looking threatening. And Bayard is going to be up here. I'm actually going to place him right there at Poplar Ford. And he's going to cross and be up here as a presence to stop Stuart's cavalry from any cheap runaround type activities. That's the setup. Turn 1, let's begin. Now I've drawn a few chits, but the only action that's going to happen on this first turn, that is the only action I'm going to do. When you're playing, you can be moving everyone around. The only action that's going to happen is Sigel's attack. Sigel's right has contacted Jackson's forces here. On his left, this block is protecting the flank. Ordinarily, this is within the field of fire and they couldn't just stop there, they'd have to attack. Except they're in cover. You can be in a field of fire and not attack if you're in cover. Now of note here is that Jackson's chit has already been drawn. Had it not been drawn, he could react to this in some way. Last chit drawn is Stuart's cavalry chit. Now Stuart is still off the map, meaning his block here can't attack the enemy, but it can move in support, and that it does. Alright, here we have a detachment in front. The detachment rolls 1 die, regular block rolls 3. They get 3 hits. The detachment can only take 1 hit. It is eliminated. Itself, it does no hits. Since the Union blocks received no hits and have not been reduced, Stuart's cavalry falls back. Turn 2, Stuart will be coming on this turn, and Fitz-John Porter's 5th Corps will be entering. First chit drawn is Army of Virginia 3rd Corps. They have received orders to occupy Groveton and to occupy this hill right here. Now as they move into Groveton, they spot the Southern artillery, and the Southern artillery spots them. Next, Porter's chit is drawn. Porter comes on and occupies his place on the Union left. Heintzelman races on to enter the fray. Stuart's cavalry. Hampton recovers because cavalry does not require an unpacked baggage train to recover. They do so automatically. Stuart comes racing on and is disturbed to discover Union infantry so close. Sigel's troops pour through the open flank of Jackson's line. How does Jackson respond? His position is outflanked and he needs to fall back. But this face of Sudley Mountain is practically impassable. If these troops fall back here, he's going to split his tiny corps in half. But if he stays down here, his troops have their backs against a wall. He will keep his corps together. Bayard's cavalry crosses the Bull Run and heads west. The only combat to resolve is Sigel's attack on the cavalry. And of course the cavalry just fades back. It's now late morning, turn 3. Longstreet will arrive this turn. Will Jackson hold? His artillery begins shelling Groveton. With little effect. Sigel's corps has been ordered to press hard on Jackson. Pope would like Heintzelman to join in on the attack. But Heintzelman's just arrived and all he can do is form his troops up. His Beggs come out of column and are parked on Henry Hill. The Union cavalry crosses Bull Run and occupies Sudley Springs. McDowell has been ordered to close the trap on Jackson's corps. Stuart races up to relieve Jackson's pressed corps. He strikes the Union troops in the rear. Jesse Reno's corps is spotted racing to the combat. Porter's 5th Corps occupies the line. Now I would have liked to have moved them much more aggressively, but I'm playing with the orders rules, and their orders had no idea what was going to be going on up here, and they're moving somewhat cautiously, and they wanted to just occupy and fill out the line. And maybe that's for the better because Longstreet's corps is coming on, including Longstreet and Robert E. Lee. Now I also was playing rather cautiously, and it's paid off this time because when writing orders I could have been more aggressive and said, hey, come up the back way and come around here. That would be an interesting way to fight the battle, but had I done that, they wouldn't have made it because there's Union troops right here and they have to come out of column to move past this point. Instead, they've been ordered to occupy a line from here to here. First, we'll do the combat on Jackson's left. Now again, Jackson has a detachment of skirmishers out front. Skirmishers are eliminated, but they do hit on Steinworth's division, reducing it to spent. Next round of combat we have is this attack down here. First we do the flanking attack on Jackson's artillery. The artillery fires first. Jackson has rolled a 5, a 3, and a 2. You need 4s to hit. And he's being flanked, so this 3 is actually a 2. He gets 1 hit. Now the North rolled a 6, a 4, and a 1. The North gets 2 hits. Now I'm not entirely certain how the new rule of troops with their backs against a wall works. But I believe, unless they get an eliminated result, they're not eliminated. So theoretically he has to retreat, but he can't retreat because he'd be eliminated if he retreated. Elimination would take 3 hits when he starts with fresh. So he just holds. They're desperate, they're fighting for their life. Actually, they can fall back to there, but that's as far as they can fall back. This block, D.H. Hills, cannot retreat because of the impassable terrain, so they move forward to fight another round. Ordinarily, this would be another round flanked, but there's an attack on the flanker. Ken Stewart saved the day. Stewart, being Dragoon Cavalry, rolls 2 dice, a 5 and a 3, but he gets a +1 because he's attacking in the rear. So that's 2 hits. Union rolls a 1, a 3, and a 5. They subtract 1. That 5 becomes a 4. That still hits. That's 1 hit on Stewart's cavalry, but Stewart cavalry is elite, so it ignores the first hit. Now here's an interesting question. These units must retreat, but they can't retreat because there's enemy units there. Does that mean they hold out there and fight valiantly? They've been attacked in the rear. They can't run to the troops in front of them. They would panic. Second round of combat. The Union push on Jackson's left flank. The Union does 1 hit, but this is A.P. Hill's elite division. He absorbs the damage, ignores the hit, but they do 2 hits on the Union troops. The Union troops are already spent, they're eliminated. But Shank's division moves up, continues the assault. Now A.P. Hill has used his elite status already. Union troops have 3 misses. Confederate troops rolled a 5, that's a hit. Shank's troops are reduced to spent. and on the east face of Sudley Mountain. The North gets one hit, but D.H. Hill's troops do 2 hits. That eliminates Reynolds' block. Next round of combat, Schenck's troops fall back. They're exhausted by the effort. And now we reach midday, turn 4. Jackson is drawn first. Now here it looks like he could unpack bags and these two could rally. But, again, this side of Sudley Mountain is considered impassable. He would need to bring his bags down here and unpack them. Well, he definitely wants to bring them south. They're not doing any good up here. But that's all the further south he wants to go, because if things change around here, he may need them back up here. And he doesn't want to have them too far down here. He's not ready to unpack yet. He does dress his line. Now he has A.P. Hill anchoring his left flank. Remember, this side of the mountain is impassable, so the Union can't attack him on that flank. And Reno's 9th Corps continues to race up from Manassas Junction. Now this last block is just a detachment and doesn't become stretched out on minor roads. And as I said earlier, the labels are there for color, but they don't necessarily mean that's what the unit is. The reason this detachment was added to Reno's Corps is this is the Kanawha Brigade. You can think of it like that. Now I've drawn the Union Cavalry Chet. Again, they don't have an HQ, which means they cannot attack enemy units. If they could, I definitely could run into Walker's division right here. But what I can do is move up in cover so that, and these are actually in columns so they don't have a field of fire. Beardley's troops are going to ride right up to there and take a look. Buford's troops, riding along the Manassas Gap Railway, are also going to move up and take a look. Now what this does is it prevents Longstreet's Corps from staying in column. They're going to have to come out of column. They're threatened. Now I've just drawn Army of Virginia 3rd Corps' Chit, and I realize that the entire corps has been eliminated. Now at night, they can get some of those blocks back, and they'll appear near McDowell's HQ. McDowell's HQ moves back to Chinn's Ridge and becomes the rallying point for the units of his corps. He occupies the highest point at the southern end of Chinn's Ridge and sets up his rallying point. Heintzelman's 3rd Corps is drawn, and they attack. Longstreet deploys. Heintzelman's 1st Corps attacks. His artillery deploys on the hilltop. And now the Confederate cavalry's Chit is drawn. Stuart, hearing of Union cavalry action on the Confederate right, wheels about and charges down there to stabilize the situation. Reno's left flank advances to cover and holds. And now we have midday combat. Beardsley falls back from the Confederate foot before any combat is fought. First round of combat. Heintzelman's assault on A.P. Hill's division. The South is in cover. The North has rolled 4, 4, and 5. The 2 4s miss. The 5 is absorbed by A.P. Hill's elite status. No change. A.P. Hill has rolled 3, 5, 6. The 5 and the 6 hit, 2 hits on a spent unit, eliminated. The supporting block moves up. First round of combat in the center line. In front are Confederate skirmishers. Rolling 1 die. They roll a 5, that causes a hit. The Union rolls a 1, a 4, and a 5. Since the Southern troops are in cover, the 4 misses. They get 1 hit. 1 hit eliminates the detachment. Or in more narrative terms, the skirmishers fall back to the line. Ewell's men move forward. Now they're going to be fighting a spent Union unit. The skirmishers have done their job. Second round of combat. Up here in the Confederate left. Union rolls 1, 2, 4. The 4 misses because the South is in cover. Union does no hits. South rolls 2, 3, 5. The 5 causes a hit. Moving down the line, the next combat. We have Hooker's spent division attacking Ewell's troops. Hooker does 2 hits, while Ewell only does 1. 2 hits throws back Ewell's fresh corps, and one hit throws back Hooker's spent corps. Kearny's men move forward. The Union continue to hold. And the next final round, well, we don't know if it's the final round. The next round on A.P. Hill's corps. Fighting Skirts' exhausted men. They each get one hit. Heinzelman's corps is again thrown back. But this time, A.P. Hill's division is showing some wear and tear. Now on the first day, Pope's forces can lose 5 units, and Lee's forces can lose 3. I shouldn't say units, they can lose 3 infantry blocks. Lee has lost all 3 detachments. Those don't count. Pope has lost 4 infantry blocks. One more block, and the North is broken. If these combats had fallen out differently, these 2 southern units could have been eliminated. Maybe a couple northern units would not have been eliminated. It would have looked very different. It's early afternoon, and at this point, Pope is going to go on the defensive. He can only afford 1 more loss. Now tomorrow, assuming he gets no more losses, tomorrow he'll have recovered 2 of his blocks, and Ricketts' division of McDowell's corps will arrive. On day 2, Union morale raises to 6 blocks. Again, if he loses nothing more today, recovers 2 blocks at night, he'll be able to sustain 4 more losses before his army breaks. And that's a good plan, if he can last the day. He's going to fall back to Buck Hill and Chin's Ridge. Turn 5, early afternoon. Heinzelman's corps falls back. Reno's 9th Corps forms up south of Henry Hill. The Union cavalry falls back. Army of Virginia 1st Corps falls back to Buck Hill. Longstreet helps the North along. And Stuart always helps. Up in the north, Hampton's cavalry recovers. Longstreet unpacks bags south of Sudley Mountain, and he positions his troops to recover. Not wanting any of this, Fitz-John Porter's corps falls back to Chin's Ridge as ordered. And now it's turn 6, mid-afternoon. Now historically, Lee did not want to fight an offensive battle here, and he did not pursue the Union armies at this time. He wanted to see if they were going to try attacking him again. But this is pub battles, and you are not Lee. You're saying, what would happen if I had been there? What would you do? The Northern cavalry continues to fall back. Reno's 9th Corps has been ordered to hold the southern flank. Longstreet's corps occupies Groveton and points south. His artillery is now covering the open expanse, the tender underbelly of the Union left flank. McClellan moves his rallying point to a nearby hill, and Jackson's Biggs resupply his troops. Stuart leads the advance on the southern right flank, and Fitz-John Porter fully invests Chin's Ridge and links up with Reno's corps facing south. Turn 6 sees no combat. Turn 7, early evening. Union cavalry continues falling back. Reno dresses his line. Longstreet continues to prepare for tomorrow's assault, and his bags are moved forward. On the left, Hampton's cavalry gains the hill. Reno dresses 9th Corps' line. Jackson places his artillery on Stony Ridge. Heinzelman unpacks bags, and his corps recovers. Turn 8, last turn of the day. Union cavalry falls back across Bull Run. And that ends day 1 of 2nd Bull Run. I'm going to end this video here, but I want to hear from you. What do you think the chances are for tomorrow? What would you do as Lee to counter Pope's army? Or if you were Pope, what would you do? How do you think this could be solved? It's up to you to get rid of Lee's army, to get them out of Virginia. Tomorrow you'll have the larger army. How would you attack? I'm really curious what you might do, and please like and subscribe to my channel.